Okay, we remember Coach Pittman from last year. He was very good, and he's back. He has a message for you.
Hi, everybody. I just want to thank you for covering us and what you do for college football. You've all been so good to me. There'll be a time when you won't. I'm sure there will be something there, but I appreciate you after 2 seasons.
Okay, first question, second row on your left.
Hey, Coach. Johnny Condon, ABC 3340 in Birmingham, Alabama. My first question to you, can you just talk me through that game in November in Bryant-Denny last year, the fact that your team not only competed with but almost beat Alabama? Can you speak to just the confidence that gave your group moving forward into this season?
You know, there's a big deal in believing you can do something before you can do it. I think that's with life, anything. I think Alabama beat us 100-0 my first year, and last year we got a little bit closer. I remember my second year, my first year at Arkansas on the previous staff. They'd beat us about that like they did the first year. The second year they beat us 14-13 at our place, and it gave us a level of confidence, if there is such a thing, in a loss. And we don't play to lose. We're the University of Arkansas. We're not trying to lose anybody. But Alabama that night, it did give us a little bit of confidence that we can compete. And we'd already proven that because we'd beaten, I don't know, number 15, number 7, number 17, whatever it was, each week. I think we'd won 3 top 15 or top 20 games already that year, but to compete against University of Alabama is where we need to go to, and we got a little closer.
Front row to your left.
Hey, Coach. Jacques Doucet, WAFB TV in Baton Rouge. I wanted to ask you about a couple people at LSU. Brad Davis, who you coached.
Yeah, I love him.
And Brian Kelly, the new head coach,
Yeah.
he said one of the biggest reasons why he kept Davis on the staff is because he had been mentored by you, and he called you the best offensive line coach in the country. So I just want to get your thoughts on those 2 guys.
Well, Brad Davis, you know, I recruited him out of high school to Oklahoma, and he was my grad assistant at North Carolina, and obviously he was the offensive line coach at Arkansas, and elected to go back home. But he's a wonderful man, a wonderful family, wonderful football coach. So I had talked to Coach Kelly about Brad, and he had obviously said had kept him, and that's quite a compliment from Coach Kelly. Coach Kelly's a great coach. I really have enjoyed getting to know him. I would consider him a friend of mine, and but for him to say that meant a lot to me, and I appreciated it.
Coach, right side, third row.
Tyler Shaw with KBTX and College Station. You know, your team took such a big leap forward last year. Do you feel like, you know, moving forward, it's going to be any more difficult to keep that sustained success, knowing that you're not going to sneak up on anyone?
Yeah, I think, you know, I think it's going to be, you know, any team. Most any team in our league, it's hard to stay consistent with 9 wins, you know. I'm not for sure we snuck up on anybody. You know, we went to Georgia, and they beat us 37-0. They kind of were ready for us. You know, I think you just go compete. And I think in this league, I think everybody knows that you better play well no matter who. And it doesn't matter. I remember when we were at Georgia, we were playing some of the other teams that may not be quite as good as we were at the time. And you know, you go in at half and you're either behind or it's a close game. Yes, to answer your question, it's hard. And it's hard to go from 6 wins to 9. It's certainly harder to go from 9 to each win you go up is harder, and it's harder to maintain. And especially in the SEC, and no disrespect to the East, especially in the SEC West. And then they add college football playoff team and a BYU who's 21-4 over the last 2 years and been waiting to the top 20. You got yourself a schedule. So, listen, I love it at Arkansas. I'm not complaining one bit about it. we're the University of Arkansas, we'll go compete. But it's tough.
To your right, fourth row.
Hey, Sam, Dean Legge from Dog Post. Good to see you again. I wanted to ask you, were you surprised with the success Kirby had last season? And if you weren't, why do you think he'll have success winning in the future?
Oh, no, no surprise to me. I mean, he got a great staff, works his tail off. He's at University of Georgia, which is, has a plentiful state of athletes. But you can have a plentiful state of athletes and not get them too, and he does. Obviously, he has great recruiters on his staff, tireless worker. No. You could feel that coming. 17, we got beat for the national championship. They're hard to get, obviously, but you could feel that one. You could feel that one coming. And will he continue to have great success? Absolutely. I mean, knowing Kirby, that just made him a little hungrier.
Coach, to your left, fourth row.
If that's possible. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Dan Peck, ESPN 106.7. Coach, the win over Texas last year, I think it stunned some people in college football. Not just that your team won, but how you controlled that football game and the way that you beat Texas. What do you remember of that game and the significance of that win going forward?
I remember how well our defense played. They were flying around. They had a great tailback, and there just wasn't anywhere to go. And I remember we started dominating up front on the offensive line. Everything seemed to be going right. I remember telling the coaches at halftime, if we can just hold on to the ball, they can't score. And we go out, we throw a pick. Now, it was a great pick by the DB at Texas, and they went in and scored against us. The great thing about that is we went down the field and answered maybe 2 or 3 times in a row after that, rushed for over 300 yards. That's our ball. Now, there's games when we don't rush for that, but that's what we're trying to accomplish. That's how we win games, physicality of the offensive line, running backs, and certainly our quarterback. So at the end of the game, I remember the police officers telling me we can't go shake hands because the crowd's going to go crazy out here. It's going to be unsafe. I said, well, I'm damn sure going to go shake the man's hand. And we did, and I'm here, so it must have been okay.
To your right, Coach, second row.
Coach, my name is Lance Fairley. I work with the Lake County News. Again, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
When you were at Georgia a couple of years ago, during the recruitment of Cedric Van Pran, what kind of person was he behind the scenes? And 2 years ago, before you left, could you see him representing his university like he is today?
Yeah, oh, man. Well, ironically, Ced came in with his father for an individual type workout. It was on a camp day. And we worked him out there, me and I don't know who, I can't remember the GA at that time. It was either Cody Kennedy. I think it was Cody. And so Cody and I went out there and worked him out, and his dad was out there. And I went, this is a no-brainer. He wasn't highly recruited at the time, and this is a no-brainer. And then I was talking to Coach Smart just previously before we started these interviews, and I said, man, Ced's done such a great job, but I don't know that I had the foresight to see him at center. And, man, has he done a great job there. So, obviously, Coach Luke and Kirby and them, they found the spot for him. I mean, I think he's one of the better centers in the country, and he's certainly one of the better kids in the country.
To your left, Coach, back row.
Coach Ike Jones with the War Report. You lost a significant contributor in Treylon Burks from your offense. Who should are fans going to look back this season and say that was the guy for us that stepped up in his place?
Well, we go to the Outback Bowl. Now that was about a 3-week of preparation, okay? But we didn't have anybody at that point. I think we threw the ball for 103 or 5 yards, something like that during that game. So that put up more of a red flag. Now, in the second half, I think KJ rushed for 100 and some yards himself. I mean, we decided we could run the football, and we did. So, but it was scary early because we weren't getting open, and or we weren't seeing it, whatever the case may be. So I think to answer your question, it's going to be a little bit by committee. We obviously went and got Jaden Hazelwood out of Oklahoma, or he transferred over, however you say it. And Matt Landers is another portal guy. And then Keytron Jackson's a guy that's got to step up. Warren Thompson has to, We've got some young guys, Jaden Wilson, Bryce Stevens. Those are probably our top 6 guys, if I'm not forgetting somebody. But I think we got to kind of do it more by committee than, and I'm not saying one of those guys can't have a breakout season. I'm not saying that, but I think to replace a Burks, you got to do it with more than one guy.
To your right, Coach, back row.
Hey, Coach. Jamal Kennedy, WSFA 12 Sports in Montgomery, Alabama. 2 years ago, you guys traveled down to Auburn and lost that heartbreaking game there on the Plains. You returned to Auburn this year. What do you remember about that game, and what do you think about Jordan-Hare as a venue to play in? Well,
it's incredible. I mean, when I was at Georgia, we were number 1 and went in there in a night game, and they beat us bad. And unfortunately, we were able to win the championship game 3 or 4 weeks later, but they were on a roll. They beat us, and then I think that they beat Alabama a couple weeks later, whatever. But the crowd, it's definitely a home field advantage now. What I remember about the game, besides the obvious, was how we were competing. At that point, it was my third game as a head coach, and we hung well with Georgia for a half, and then ironically, that's when Stetson Bennett came in, and they beat us pretty good. And then next week we had went to Mississippi State and won. Then we're going to Auburn, and our team, the competitiveness of our team, I think we were down at half, and we kind of came on and made it very close there. I remember we went for a 2-point conversion early in the game, and we didn't make it, and that kind of put us in a catch-up situation. But we're looking forward to going back there. Coach Harson's a great coach, and I'm sure we haven't beat them, since we're 0-2, and certainly that's one of the games on our schedule that, it's after a bye week, and hopefully we'll be better prepared. Hopefully I'll do a better job than I have the first 2 years.
We only have time for one final question. Gentleman in the back row. Okay. All right.
Hi. Jacob Goins, ESPN 106.7 in Auburn. Looking at your schedule in the SEC West every single year, there's tough games every single week. How do you keep your team fresh and ready every single week with such tough games in the SEC West?
Well, I think it's about how you practice. I mean, we're a very physical practice team, but you can take care of your team. You can't really control what happens on Saturday. So you have to have them ready when they run out there on a Saturday. So we adjust practices as basically it's my feel on the team. And injuries has something to do with that. Heat has a lot to do with that. What time of the game you played. Were you on the road? You got in at 3 or 4 in the morning, whatever it may be. There's a lot of things that go into play with that, but you have to be very conscious that you have a football team of kids, and the bottom line is you want to win every single day, and you sure as hell want to win Saturday. And so you just have to figure it out as best you can. I'm still work in progress on that.
Coach Pittman, thank you very much. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.